of that, and then say, well, what did she have to promise them in the election to say, well, okay, you help me get elected, I'll give you my 3 hall board appointments, whichever 3 you want. You'll get in control of the hall board to do whatever it is you want with it. And that's what we think is happening here.
Well, let me make sure we all understand, too. The opinions that you're hearing today are our opinions, and they are not necessarily all fact. Some is, but these are our opinions of what's going on. You want to elaborate on what Tom just said on that, Larry?
Well, I think Tom is very accurate in his layout of the dynamics of how this all happened. Obviously, Councilman Cusack was integral, with the appointments that she had, and it was interesting that her appointments actually overlapped into individuals that related to Commissioner Wagner, with Catherine Robinson. Actually, I believe the other one was Amit Patel, which was a prior appointee of Commissioner Wagner. And then Commissioner Wagner's appointment, I believe, was Sophia Huger, which had more of a tie-in with Ms. Cusack. So, it's just real interesting how that all played out. And I will also say that it will be interesting to see in the coming year or two the new names and faces that may or may not be running for City Commission, and how they interrelate to the individuals on this board and who appointed them and who backs them. Because I think there's more of this yet to come.
Well, in my opinion, this is very carefully orchestrated. It started out first by stacking the board. Then the next step was to get rid of Janet Kersey.
In the most despicable action I have ever seen in this county.
And here's another point. I'm going to go back to this 21-year-old. 19 years ago, I sat up in that very same conference room with Janet Kersey, and myself and Janet Kersey and about 15 or 20 other people started an event called Biketoberfest. We were the original people that started that. Janet's the mother of Biketoberfest.
Absolutely.
And here we have a girl who was 3 years old at the time, voting Janet out of her position.
Yeah, she seconded the motion. Actually, she was the one who seconded it when the man who made the motion was Rich Larkin from the Hilton, who looks at the Ocean Center as if it was their own private conference center. And he sits there, and his interest is that Ocean Center be full all the time because it fills up his particular hotel. Mind you, there are at least 200 hotels and motels in our area that pay into the bed tax. I'm correct in that number, aren't I, Larry?
It's somewhere around that.
Around about 200 hotels. So there's a couple of hotels that benefit when the Ocean Center does really well.
Yeah.
I mean, directly benefiting. There's a lot of hotels that don't get any business, no matter what happens at the Ocean Center, whether it's full or empty. It doesn't affect them. Now, the mission of the hall board was not to benefit just one hotel.
Right.
And Rich Larkin was the one who made the appointment not the appointment, but the motion to fire Janet Kersey. And I must dovetail into your statement about Janet Kersey. I also know her from the first year that they established Biketoberfest, which has been a tremendous boon to our community.
Millions and millions of dollars in 19 years.
It was built in a very short time. I think the first year we had 5,000 people come here, and within a few years we had it to over 100,000 people coming here. And you bring 100,000 people into a community for 3 or 4 or 5 days, they're spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's jobs. And that's jobs for, incidentally, the people in my, and this really, now I was pretty vocal at that meeting when they tried to fire Janet, when they did fire Janet. And what really ticks me off, Eddie, is when self-serving politicians or board appointment people use their positions to feather their own nests or act in a very self-serving, self-interested manner without concern to what they're doing to the general population as a whole. If this action that they have taken emasculates the CVB, and we stop spending the money in advertising that's anticipated, or they're liable to do, that's going to be jobs. And you know, what we created in Biketoberfest was jobs.
That's right.
This action is going to cause the loss of jobs. And I'm going to use a strong word. It pisses me off when I see little people getting hurt because of the actions that are taken by people that are just, acting on behalf of their own small self-interest. Yeah. Janet was a really, really, really good person. We promoted her. I was on the board when we promoted Janet Kersey to the prior administrator. Executive was retiring. She was there for many years. And just last year, we promoted Janet. As a matter of fact, the guy who made the motion, you want to get really pissed? The guy who made the motion to fire her voted in an 11-0 vote to promote her to that position just last year. Now, what's that about?
And didn't they, right after firing her, go on to accept every program that she submitted?
Yes?
Yeah, that's true. It was very interesting the way that whole meeting went down. First of all, the meeting was called to order late.
Yes, I heard that.
You know, it was called to order late because one of the members, Catherine Robinson, wasn't there, which is generally unheard of. Usually meetings, you know, start on time, and if an individual member is late, they come in during the meeting. But it was, you know, everything was held, and, you know, and then the first order of business was the discussion on Janet, and immediately a motion is made and seconded by the individual that was late to the meeting. So it was almost like the meeting was held because it was already pre-planned and orchestrated, which is, you know, interesting. But during the discussion, I felt it was interesting that comments being made specifically by Catherine Robinson were that after doing research, that she could not support Janet and her continuing, you know, as the executive director. And I find that somewhat comical because generally if you're going to do your research on something, you listen to both sides of the story.
Yeah, especially something this huge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would question a number of the board members and ask how many of them actually went to Janet and had a conversation with Janet about the circumstances around the Shriners Convention and all of that. And a number of them never spoke to her about that. A number of the ones that voted her off because of that issue. And it's an important issue because a lot of people don't realize, we talked about Biketoberfest. What a great event.
Yeah.
What a great event. What amount of money is brought into this community. And not only that, it was brought during the time period when this town was historically slow.
Yes.
So we went from a town being empty at a $60 a night rate to a town being full at $130, $140, $150 a night rate.
Right.
Okay. And the Shriners issue is something a little bit different. It's something that's coming in town during a time period when we are historically already busy.
Well,
so there's a lot of other intricacies involved in that business that that those in the tourism industry understand, but those that are not in the tourism industry may not understand completely. So, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done on that.
We're going to be coming to the end of this show here pretty soon. This half hour sure flew by. And we're going to be doing another half hour for next week. And one of the things we're going to be coming back on is going to be the Shriners. I want to talk about the Shriners. I want to talk about Biketoberfest. I want to talk about Bike Week and where some of the money's coming from. But in the last couple of minutes that we got left here, if you guys like to sum up and say something to the audience, and we will have you back next week, and we're going to get back into this conversation because there's still a lot that we need to cover. Larry, how about yourself? You got something you'd like to leave the audience with this week?
Absolutely. The one thing that I would like to say is that, you know, I certainly believe that the community and the industry and the residents of Volusia County lost a true champion of Volusia County when Janet Kersey was let go without cause, in my opinion. She has done nothing but carry the torch for this community and for tourism in this area for 20+ years. And it's quite disappointing that the egos and personal issues of a few people have really, in my opinion, created a situation where our industry and the residents in this community are probably going to suffer dearly because of the loss of a very experienced, dedicated, absolutely dedicated, and one of the most hard-working individuals that you will ever meet. She has really done a fantastic job, and I really feel sad for the way that that entire episode went down. And quite honestly, with the turmoil in this community, especially with this board right now, I really would find it hard to see who would want to step into that position with any kind of major qualifications to replace her.
You're dead on.
With the fiasco that's going on right now.
You are dead on, Tom.
It's very unfortunate.
Well, you know, the Hob Board is one symptom, in my opinion. What happened in the Hob Board is one symptom of a change in our county that took place in the last couple of years. And I believe the folks out there, the voters out there, need to understand what huge shift has taken place in our county. The Hob Board reflects that shift. And here's the deal. We used to have a fairly balanced county council. We had two gentlemen there that are no longer there, that I believe because they aren't there, this was allowed to happen. And that was Art Giles and Jack Heyman.
Yes.
And I want people to start to focus on that. What happened on the Hob Board is going to happen elsewhere. It seems to be that this county council, since Jack and Art, have moved in directions that the voters, if they were more aware of and were following it closer, would not like. Because there's also another issue that they took action on that really they shouldn't have gotten away with, and that was redirecting the ECHO money from ECHO into Forever. And so there's two incidences there which clearly, Eddie, show that this county council is acting like an imperial county council. That is, that they can do things without regard to what the will of the people are. And I can tell you, when Janet Kersey walked into that room was full. As a matter of fact, that was a violation of sunshine law as far as
Hold that thought, because we'll come back with that, but hold that thought. What you're watching is Volusia County Issues, and this is the real intent of this show, is to let you, the people of Volusia County, know what's going on in your government that's affecting your lives. In the meantime, we'll be back to see you next week with the second half of this show.